Hello friends, it's me again, back with a vlog experiment. We're doing episode 2 of Third Time's a Charm, where I read authors for the third time, 3 of them, and I see if I like them. That's it, that's the whole concept. The goal at the end of these videos is to basically see if I want to read more from these authors. If they're an author that I keep checking out over and over again and not falling completely in love with, but getting comfortable enough with them that I just always pick up their newest release and like never end up loving. Or by the end, if we discover it's time to kind of break ties, sometimes like only temporarily, with an author and just like read some other things, make room in my TBR for new authors. I will be frank with you. Episode 1 I had very clearly in my mind when I created this series. I did contemporary books. You can see I have a contemporary shelf. I did that. I have a very clear idea of what I want to do with the thrillers. And then we're left with fantasy, sci-fi, horror stuff. And this one I didn't plan out to completion in like just the conceptualizing point of this series, but I was like, there's definitely tons of authors on this shelf that I've read from twice. I just need to find a third book and do that. Turns out there's not actually that many of them. So before the video even starts, we've gone a little bit off the rails. You'll see what I mean in a second. So I have selected 3 authors that I have more or less read from 2 times. This is my 3rd time with them. I'm excited about all the books I picked. Up first is E.K. Johnston. This one is exactly the rules that I set in place. I've read from this author twice. So let me find the books. These are the 2 books I've read from this author before. This is the first one I picked up, called Exit Pursuit by a Bear. I picked this up because it was a hard-hitting contemporary. It is Shakespeare inspired. Thought I would love it. Gave it, I think, like 2.5 stars. What I did like about it was the writing, and I remember saying that I wanted to read from this author again. In fact, I believe I did a video talking about authors that I need to read more of, and I listed this book and then I read it and also didn't like it. This one I gave 3 stars. It's called That Inevitable Victorian Thing. I don't actually remember this one super well, but I think this was one of the books that convinced me. I don't really love books that are about royalty, but it did have a nice mix of real stuff and fantasy, so I've always thought I should pick up more from this author. And I was waiting for a while for her to come out with a book that suited my tastes, because I think she's come out with quite a few like higher fantasy, a bunch of like Star Wars stuff, which is super duper cool. I prefer standalone books. She does have a couple that I had to choose from, but what's exciting is if I end up loving this Etherbound, then there's a couple other things that I can pick up. This is set in space, something that I love. It's shorter than I thought it would be, so I'm intrigued by that. I love short books. And a couple of my friends on Goodreads have marked this as a DNF and also said that like this isn't the space opera that I thought it would be, which appeals to me. I feel like that evidence makes me think I'm gonna like this book. So we'll dive into the plot of this in a second, but getting on to the other authors. The next one I have is by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. That's the next author. This book is called The Beautiful Ones. Again, I had a few different books to choose from. I hope that I love this because then I'm gonna wanna pick up everything from her. And here's a couple other things I really wanna read. The one book I've read in completion is Mexican Gothic. I read this last year in a video where I read all the Goodreads horror nominees. And I didn't love it, but there were a lot of things that I did really like about it. I ended up giving this 3 stars. And then I didn't tell any of you because I haven't talked about my DNFs in a really long time, but I ended up checking out, oh, what's it called? Something about Gods and Shadows from the library, and I stopped at like the halfway point because it just wasn't for me. And I know that quite a few of her books have actually been directly recommended to me before, but my friend Celine has talked about this just aggressively, and they're just undying love for it. I think they read it like 10 times over a couple months, and I just want to have that type of passion for a book. I don't know if this is going to be it, but this is what I've selected. So that's the first example of going a little bit off the rails because I haven't completed 2 books, but I think it's okay. This one goes more off the rails. I've selected The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. I have read 2 books from this author. Let us find them. You might recall me reading this with you. It's called Upright Women Wanted. I read it because it was recommended by a book recommendation service, and I initially gave it 4 stars when I read it, and over the last like year I've kind of knocked it down a little bit to a 3 point something. And then because I thought there was potential to love a book from them, I picked up When We Were Magic and didn't like it, like actively didn't enjoy it. But I do think there's a lot of potential with this author. So even though like I know I kind of gave this 4 stars, I still haven't loved a book from this author, and that's what I want. I want The Third Time's a Charm to be something incredible. It makes me go, oh my gosh, let me read more from them, because right now I'm just like, okay, I'm genuinely intrigued. This was one of my anticipated books of the year. I'm reading it for the Crusty Book Club too. So you'll be able to see me discuss this book in a live show after this with some other people. But The Echo Wife is, again, a short sci-fi clone story, and I want to love it. I want to love it so much, and I want to think of Sarah Gailey as someone who I'm going to pick up everything from. I just need convincing with this 3rd book. So these are the 3 things. This symmetry right now, you know I'm making this an Instagram picture. I feel really good about these 3 authors and these 3 selections, and the fact that they have more books. So after I read all of these, like, I can dive into their backlist. That's something that is so exciting to me, and I really hope I love them all. So these don't perfectly fit the goal, the original goal of The Third Time's a Charm, but I think they do enough. Don't worry, my thriller episode, I'm very much following my rules of not just books that I felt okay about, but books that I like hated. But this installment is going to be authors who have written some sci-fi fantasy stuff that I think I could love, and this is going to be the moment for me that I read everything from them, or maybe I just don't pick them up anymore. I'll see you in a sec with my first selection. Okay, I am this far into The Echo Wife. It's funny how the book is so short. I feel like some of my feedback for Upright Women Wanted was that it was a little too short, but I do also appreciate like an author being concise. Like, Sarah Gailey books are something that if in someone else's hands could be like a 400-page story, but they don't waste any time, and they don't leave you with lots of time to think about like what's going on. It's just like it's all happening. Like, we're not stopping to ponder about things. We're not learning about anything we don't absolutely have to know about, and that's something that I appreciate. I've been like kind of surprised by a couple things already, which I really like. I guess I went into this book knowing that it was about a woman and her clone and something happening to their husband, but like I still wasn't fully ready for how things were going to come about. Like, I didn't fully know who every character was, and I don't know if that's a me thing or if that was like an intentional choice, but it's just a very interestingly written little book. I'm already excited to talk about it in a live show, so that's very cool. Hello, me again. I'm nearing the end. There have been a couple good twists. What am I liking so far? I'm liking the relationship between these women. They're the same woman. It's a clone. But she discovers this clone and like has to make decisions about like how much to let this clone into her life. And like, I think she learns a lot about herself by getting to know her clone. It's like a weird self-discovery narrative, because maybe she's never taken the time to really get to know herself, but being faced with herself is just opening her eyes to a lot of things. It's super strange. It's super good. Rob just came home with a microphone. It's a Yeti, Blue Yeti microphone. I've wanted one for so long because I've always thought like, hey, I should start a podcast, but not in a way that I ever thought was realistic. And then randomly he just leaves the house and he's like, I'm going to pick something up, and then comes home with a microphone. And then 5 minutes later, I get an email that's like, your money transfer to Carissa Pukas went through. If you don't know who that is, she's like a beauty lifestyle vlogger who I've followed for literally 10 years and lives near me. We've never interacted in real life, but we have like some mutual friends. I've just like watched her career explode, and she like lived in Australia for a bit and now she's back in Canada, and I've been like following all of that. And then randomly I sent a money transfer to her and I was like, what's happening? Rob walks in with a mic. So I have Carissa Pukas's famous beauty vlogger mic. No one probably cares, but super random. I'm gonna test it out. I've only ever used like in-camera microphone things. This isn't gonna be a new thing, even if it sounds great, just because I don't trust it quite yet. But I want to see if it is better. So we're going to switch over to the other one. I'm peeking. Let me see. Now, we're using the other mic now. Maybe I have to sit farther away. This makes me want to have an ASMR channel. I don't think my voice lends well to ASMR, but I feel like it's really cool. But I keep peeking the audio. Now I have to listen to this back. I think my sensitivity's too high. Could I have had the headphones on while I did that? It's terrible. Oh no. Final thoughts on the Echo Wife. Let's not pretend. Or let's pretend. I don't look this unbelievably tired. This book took me... I can't even talk. This book took me way too long to read. Considering how long it is, like, that was a wild couple days. And I'm giving it, I don't know, hold on. I haven't thought this through. I'm giving it a 4.5. I just decided that right now. With that said, this isn't gonna be for everyone. We have like a main character who is like obnoxious to read from her perspective. She has so much passion and emotion, and just the way that this is narrated, both like physically narrated and also in the audiobook, it's like, oh, get a grip. But of course, I love that type of character, so I had a lot of fun reading this. I think it's a really interesting look at like the human condition. I love sci-fi books that have like robots or clones or some type of manufactured thing, and a typical trope is like that thing becoming more and more human, or taking on more and more realistic traits. And like, even though this robot was invented, like somehow its humanity is persevering. Like, I love that. So this was a really interesting take. I don't think it did like a lot of new things in regards to the science. The science is pretty like not rooted in reality. But something that I'm realizing I like about Sarah Gailey's work is that it doesn't feel rooted in any certain time. It's not like, unless I missed something, it's not like the year is 20 something something and this is what the world looks like. And I felt this way in Upright Women Wanted too. I said in my review that if you hadn't told me that this was set in the future, I wouldn't have known. And I think that's something that's really interesting. Like I said, it doesn't waste a lot of time discussing things, and I think that lends well to this, is we're not really learning about what the world looks like outside of the focus of the book. This cloning situation, like, this could be a futuristic thing, this could be an alternate reality, because it's not bogged down with any details about the world around us, like the political climate, any other real technology. It's just like, the book is about cloning, and so we talk about cloning and we talk about these relationship dynamics, and like, that's it. World building, get out of here. That's why I think it's for a specific audience, because I don't care about those things. I don't care about having a good understanding of how this process is working. I don't care about the world around us. I just got to experience this one weird ass love triangle, and it was a really fun time. I feel like I've just like woken myself up, and now I have to shut back down and go to sleep. You have a little bit of time to read this before the live show that I will see. I'll just link Chanel's channel down below so you can access the live and see when it's happening once it's announced and everything. But yeah, highly recommend so we can have like a fun discussion. I am really excited to find out what this book is about. My perception of this is that it was one of the least fantastical stories from this author, and I was thinking maybe that's where my success will be with it, is I would pick something that's a little more light fantasy rooted in reality. Really, I just want to feel something. I want to feel passion for a book. So I have not read the description. Let me just read it out loud to you and to me at the same time for the first time. They are the beautiful ones. Don't know how to pronounce his name. Loisel? I'll figure it out. Oh, is that like the city? Oh, okay. Loisel's most notable socialites, and this spring is Nina's chance to join their ranks, courtesy of her well-connected cousin and his calculating wife. But the grand season has just begun, and already Nina's debut has gone disastrously awry. She has always struggled to control her telekinesis. Neighbors call her the Witch of Old House, and the haphazard manifestation of her power, which makes her the subject of malicious gossip. When entertainer Hector Ouvray arrives to town, Nina is dazzled. A telekinetic like her, he has traveled the world performing his talents for admiring audiences. He sees Nina not as a witch, but ripe with potential to master her power under his tutelage. Okay, we'll stop there. I'm intrigued. A little bit of magic, a little bit of romance. I'm feeling like the Midnight Bargain meets the Night Circus. I don't know why. Those are just the things that pop into mind right away. I love books that have some type of like interesting social commentary. I'm just assuming that part of it will be about like womanhood and magic that men have versus women have. We'll see, we'll see. I just realized this is published by Tor. I have a lot of success with Tor. Okay, I'm only like not even 10% through. Well, no wait. Yeah, like 10% through. And I like it already. Our main character, I think, is interesting. I don't know why I kept talking while I was trying to clean my lens, sorry. Seeing her through the eyes of this man who she's like a fan of. She knows of him because he's on all of these posters for being like telekinetic. He's got some like, you know, fame revolving around him, and the way that he sees her is like, he's like, oh, I'm not interested in this like basic bitch, basically. And she's just like innocent and quirky and simple, and I'm just interested to see where it goes and how their perspectives shift of each other. I just got 2 packages, both from Book Depository, and these were a while ago, so I don't actually remember what they are, which is the one exciting thing about Book Depository. Like, a lot of times it's annoying how long things take, but then when they do, you've forgotten what you ordered, and then it's like a nice surprise. Oh yeah, okay, this is called Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, and I don't even fully know what this is, but the cover just did it for me. I saw this on a couple people's different Instagrams, and it wasn't available in Canada when I looked. Sometimes that happens though, like I'll see something's not available and I'll just order from Book Depository, and then like a month later it will be available here, and that's usually the same time that it shows up. This is not working for me. Does this ever work for anyone? Oh yeah, we need to talk about Money by Ortega Uegba. This is bigger than I thought it would be. I'm so used to her little tiny books. And this one didn't seem to be published in Canada, which I was like, I would like her to talk to me about money, please, because I loved her little black book. And now I'm even more excited because it's bigger than I thought it was. So that means there's going to be a lot more involved. I have a feeling it might touch on like similar things from the little black book and maybe expand upon them, or like other concepts that maybe I've heard. Like I see that it talks about invisible labor, Death of the Girl Boss is one of the chapters. The Boys Club, Scholarship Kid. It's about toxic workplaces and misogynist men, about getting pay rises and getting evicted, about class and privilege and racism and beauty, about shame and pride, compulsion and fear. In unpicking the shroud of secrecy surrounding money, who has it, how they got it, and how it shapes our lives, this boldly honest account of one woman's journey upturns countless social conventions. When will I get to these? No clue. This is my third time with this author though. But it's not third time's a charm because I've given everything from her 5 stars. But I also, like, part of my third time's a charm mantra is also that I don't refer to an author as an all-time favorite until I've given 3 things 5 stars. So I'm not saying I'm gonna read it this week. I need to focus on what I need to focus on, but I'm excited to read that someday soon. Okay, I'm halfway through. Yes, I've been in bed like all day. I really like it, but also it's not what I expected. Here's my like mini realization about adult books is they don't just make things easy for you, okay? Sometimes I just want to read a book and I just want to know that the relationship is just like gonna be angsty, but it's gonna be fine. In this one, it's like making me acknowledge that there are other relationships that may be better for these people, and so I can't fully like be on board and feel all of my feelings because like there's other convincing arguments to like live a different life or go a different direction or be with someone else. So I'm not getting everything that I want as quickly as I want it, but I respect the book for making me not expect to just be spoon-fed an easy relationship. Not that I'm saying anything about teen books, so maybe like some of the teen books that I've picked up in the past, okay? I just reached chapter 20, and this book is infuriating in a good way. I just reached chapter 21, and it hurts. There was one line in chapter 21. It just like, it really hurt me. I could cry, but I'm not going to. I have great news, and it's that I really liked this book. This is so great. This is such a great video. This is exactly what I needed in my life right now. These books are officially my favorite books from the authors that wrote them. Does that make sense? Of all the books that I've read that these authors wrote, this week I read my favorites from those authors. It's very late at night. This was a 4-star. I'm so excited. And I was just reading some other people's reviews, and some people were saying that this is kind of similar to Gods of Shadows and Jade. This is a very like Vanity Fair, Jane Austen kind of vibe. The author referred to it as a book about manners. It was also a very aggravating book, but like that's good. I like when an author makes me feel. I think this is like the 3rd book that I have read this month that has a sister or a cousin of our protagonist who's such a fucking bitch, and you just want to see her get clocked by the end of the book. I felt the same in here. There was some like retribution. There were satisfying moments. The end of the book especially just like really picked up. It flew by. I think like a 4 instead of a 4.5 or a 5 is partially because of the pacing. Like it was a little bit repetitive. I feel like there could have been 100 more pages in here, because with a book that's like under 300 pages, you can't introduce too many storylines, but often what I feel like happens is the author isn't willing to take things as far as I would like them to go, and instead, to keep it condensed, they kind of repeat the same conflict like 3 times. This I was completely here for. The second half I was completely here for, and this section here, it was like kind of like the miscommunication trope happened a couple times and in the same way. And I understand that from our main character's point of view, like being kind of naive and innocent, it was easy for her to believe what everyone around her is saying and to be persuaded by people that she is meant to trust. And she was a really, really strong main character. Like, her whole disposition didn't drastically change throughout the book. It wasn't this story that turned into like her taking down the entirety of society's expectations, but there were the tricklings of like feminism and taking charge of your own life and making your own decisions throughout it. I probably would have liked a little more magic, but I don't know if that's true. I think I say that only because the pace was lacking and I'm trying to think of things that like could have filled those moments. There was a point in here where we jumped ahead in time, and I always love seeing that, I'm finding, especially in like light fantasy, because you get to see how the character is developing as a person, but then a lot of times there's also this development with the like abilities that they have, and those two things are closely tied because like you have more control over your magic when you feel like you have more control over your life, or you know who you are better. Oh my god, I just want to have magical powers. This book was really fun and it's really beautiful. I like where the title came from. There was a couple of really powerful quotes. I got a little glassy-eyed for a little bit of it and it was quite enjoyable. So that's where we're at. Now I have Etherbound. And I don't know what it's about. And now I'm nervous because like what if it's not for me? We're gonna assume it's for me. Oh, I don't know how to pronounce this character's name. Pent? P-E-N-D-T? Pent? Pent Harlan's family has seen her as a waste of food on their long-haul space cruiser. So I feel like sometimes when I read these, I sound a little like monotone. Let me try to perform this for you. Pent Harlan's family has seen her as a waste of food on their long-haul space cruiser ever since her genes revealed an undesirable mutation when she was only a small child. But 13 years later, her unique genetic makeup might be her chance to do much more than survive, if she plays her cards right. During a routine stop at a space dock, Pent risks everything on a one-way escape plan. While on the run, she forms a lucky bond with the teenage heirs of the powerful family that runs the space station, and against long odds, the trio hatches a scheme to take over the station and thwart the destinies they never wished for. Ooh, I really like these chapter or part title pages. I think this is gonna be fun. It says right here that it's found family. Imagine we end this with 3, 4+ star reads. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll let you know. Are you getting tired of just hanging out in my house in every single clip in this vlog? Because same. There's so much smoke. Like, there's so many fires around, and we're very lucky that there's no fires in our immediate area, but there are so many people like on evacuation alert all across BC. There are some pretty big fires like near us, and since we live in a valley, it just, all the smoke just comes here. This happens like every single summer. There's usually a whole month, and it's typically when like everybody, all the tourists come here. People come for just like a summery, sunny, beachy vacation, and then the smoke. We have another upcoming heat wave. I have this like alert on my phone for the last 3 days that I cannot get to disappear. Anyway, I have yet to brave the outdoors this week. I just like, I go do the things I have to do and I come back home. I would love to be at the beach. I would love to go for a walk. I would love to whatever, but the smoke is so bad. So sorry if the setting here is a little dull, but my life is a little dull. Everything's just like gray and sad and weird. Anyway, we will run out for groceries, so I'm sure I'll vlog a clip in the car just to pretend that that keeps things interesting. I'm halfway through Etherbound already. and I don't like it. What don't I like about it? It's happening too fast. I was saying how much I love short books, but too much has happened too fast, and I haven't gotten a good sense of like the characters, the motivations, the anything, and then suddenly we're thrown into a whole different world. It's one thing for a book to move quickly just when we're experiencing someone's already established life, but introducing us to this whole different world so quickly, and then everything happening there so quickly, like, I don't want to spoil anything. Let me recheck the synopsis. Yeah, no, it just says the trio hatches a scheme to take over the station and thwart the destinies they never wished for. But so like the things that are going on are not something that I was expecting like teenagers to be pursuing, I guess. I checked out the audiobook for a second, and I would only recommend the audiobook if you listen to audiobooks at their intended speed. Like if you're somebody who listens on 1.5 or 2 or 3 or whatever, there is an ambiance through the entire thing, like sounds of space, and then they inserted sounds of like doors closing and papers rustling, and it's a very dramatized experience, which is super fun, but not good to listen to sped up. It's just like very overwhelming. It's like there's like music, there's like an undertone the entire time. Basically, Pent has a certain future that has been laid out for her on this spaceship. It's like that classic story of expectations placed on you, especially as a young woman and in a society that prioritizes certain people and certain jobs and expects you to do certain things for your family. And she wants to step outside that and be her own person and make her own decisions. So she leaves her ship and goes somewhere else, and it's not reasonable for them to turn around and come find her, so she feels like she has some time to establish this other plan with these people that she's met along the way in order to, like, what is the big time goal here? I don't think I understand the big goal, actually. Let me read a little bit more before I decide if I enjoy where it's going, because there are some things that, like, I support, but I don't think I'm fully grasping everything. I have made a mistake. Just plain and simple. I don't just dislike this book, like I hate it. Like I really, really hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate it. It's interesting to me that the beginning has content warnings. But they're not all of the content warnings that I would expect to be in this book. And maybe it's like a spoiler related conversation, and I do think that readers should also have an impact on any content warnings. But like a reason that I hated an author's other book, if it was a content warning, I wouldn't have read this. And this is my bad for not reading more reviews too. Like I just kind of skimmed over them. And in some cases, it is beneficial to read like spoiler reviews before the book, and this would have been that for me. While there are some things that I appreciate in here, like there's always, I do like the trope, escaping your destiny. I don't like how it's actually being handled, like from her going to being owned from one person to owned by another person. My husband's back. I can't talk anymore.
I have arrived.
I can't talk. We just got groceries, and I'm making a big fat cheese board. And I think it's gonna make us happy.
Yeah. On this gloomy day.
And then I'll wrap up the last like 20 pages of this and give you my final thoughts while I'm putting together the cheese. Oh boy. Here's where I will give the book some credit. At least it was so short that the things that I hated about it, I didn't have much time to really like be in it. Don't mind my sink full of dishes. Oh no. It's just like, this was a 1 star for me, but because I didn't spend that much time reading it, like I was done this within like 2.5 hours. It's not the kind of book that I feel like is going to end up in my most hated books of the year video or anything, because I've already like, it's already out of my mind. It barely happened. It was barely a story. You know what it felt like? felt like a story pitch. It felt like this is something that you send, like, I don't know how publishing works, but like you send someone as like a book concept, and then they're like, oh, this is a really cool idea. Like this idea of people being able to like control their genetics, kind of. So she's in space and she has this ability to kind of like heal herself and do other things. And the description of how she did that is super interesting, because it's like she was like inside her own body and like doing stuff. But it takes a certain amount of energy to do that. And so in order to like heal after using your magic, you have to consume more calories. The main trigger warning at the beginning of the book is about calorie counting, because that is like the biggest focus of the book. And a reason she wants to leave to begin with is because there's just like too much control, and people are being kept on a low like diet of calories because everything has to be equal for everyone and nobody can have more than someone else. But it also keeps the population like unable to really fight back. But then also what happens in her situation, I'm cutting garlic if you were wondering what I was up to down here, is there's also this responsibility for like children to reproduce. So that's a portion of the book, is this like forced impregnation like commentary. And so it sounds like, okay, it's good that she like wants to leave and escape that potential situation, but like the book goes in a weird different direction from there, but also didn't fully like flesh anything out. I just didn't get to spend any one time thinking about any one concept before we were moved on to something else. Not that I think I would have loved the book if it was longer or like a series or anything, but it was just, it was very strange. But this one is really my bad for not looking into it more before picking it up, because I think, I don't know, like part of me feels like I would have still picked it up if I knew some things, because like it does still sound like something I would like. Typically when people complain about something like all of the action took place off page, I'm totally down for that, because I like sometimes I'm down to read about like spaceships and battles and that type of stuff. Not often, but I am. But typically the space stuff that I like to engage with is the stuff that's more on a personal basis. So it's like all of this crazy space stuff is happening, but like what about the interpersonal relationships? What about like the emotions? What about the conflicts with people? And that is what I got. I don't say this often. I needed more world building. I needed to understand some more motivations, because everything that went on in here, I just like didn't understand why things were happening the way they were happening and why certain decisions were being made, because we weren't really trying different things. It was like, here's the answer, no real reason why, but like we're just gonna go forth and do it. Even as far as like the relationships that she had in here, I don't know who to really recommend this to. I would disrecommend it to anybody who didn't like Exit Pursued by a Bear like me. I also wouldn't recommend this for people who hate The Summer I Turned Pretty and The Skies Everywhere, for reasons that you might understand. That was a rough place to end this video. Let me grab all the books. I'm sure when I said, oh my god, what if these all end up being 5 stars? In your head, you were like, there's no way. There's no way this video could have gone perfectly. Last time I did Third Time's a Charm, I only left with one author that I was going to continue reading. And this time, I left with 2. So I'm actually, like, the point of the video is successful because I have learned more about myself, who I should read more of, who I should move on from, and it's made me excited to read more things from these authors. So that's a win. Let me know if you're excited about the thriller episode, because I'm specifically intentionally waiting until later in the year to do it, because there's a specific book release that I have to include in this. I wonder if you can guess any of the authors down below that I've read 2 thrillers from and not liked, and I'm gonna give it another go. Anyway, I'll see you soon for another video. Bye!